Picture this. A quiet suburban cul-de-sac. The kind of place where kids ride bikes until the streetlights come on. Where neighbors wave politely as they mow their lawns. And where peace should be as simple as the white picket fences lining the street. But on this morning, that peace shatters like glass. Tires screech. Voices rise. And at the center of it all stands a woman with fire in her eyes and entitlement dripping from her every word. The one the neighborhood has nicknamed Karen. She isn't holding a badge, but she waves a clipboard like it's the Constitution. She isn't law enforcement, but she barks orders as though she commands an army. And her target today, a man who thought moving into this neighborhood meant peace and privacy. Instead, he finds himself face to face with an HOA president who believes she can dictate every blade of grass, every paint stroke, every breath you take on your own property. Now most people would crumble under this kind of pressure. Karen is relentless, pointing, shouting, calling in fake violations as though they were life-threatening crimes. She knows the playbook: intimidate, escalate, and overwhelm until her victim folds. But this morning, something is different. Because the man standing in her way isn't just any homeowner. He's been through worse. He's faced down storms, setbacks, and people far more dangerous than a clipboard queen. And though he wears a calm smile now, beneath it is steel. Steel forged by years of hardship, patience, and a deep understanding of what happens when you push a good man too far. Karen starts her performance like clockwork. She jabs her finger toward the driveway. You can't park there. That violates community standards. She points at the garden bed. Those flowers aren't regulation height. She even sneers at the man's pickup truck, muttering about oil spots and property values. Each accusation piles on like bricks, designed to bury him beneath a mountain of nonsense. Neighbors peek from behind curtains, some shaking their heads, others secretly enjoying the spectacle. Karen thrives on that attention. For her, it isn't just about rules, it's about power. But here's the catch. This man knows something Karen doesn't. He knows the law better than she does. He knows where her authority begins and where it ends. And more importantly, he knows how to expose a bully who hides behind fake power. The first clash is almost theatrical. Karen plants herself in the middle of his driveway, clipboard clutched like a weapon. I'll have your truck towed, she declares, her voice shrill enough to rattle windows. The man tilts his head, calm, collected, as though he's weighing whether her words carry any real weight. Then, with deliberate slowness, he pulls out his phone. Not to argue, not to plead, but to record. Her smile falters. Bullies don't like witnesses. What are you doing? She snaps. His answer is simple, almost casual. Documenting, and that single word shifts the power. Suddenly, it isn't Karen holding all the cards. Every gesture, every threat, every finger jab is being preserved. Evidence of harassment, evidence of overreach, evidence she never expected to face. The neighbors notice too. Curtains part wider. A few even step outside, pretending to check their mail while secretly watching the drama unfold. The man doesn't raise his voice, doesn't match her theatrics, he just asks questions. Which section of the bylaws covers this? Where's your written notice? Do you have legal authority to enforce this? With each calm question, Karen stumbles. Her answers grow less confident, her bluster louder, her face redder. And that's when it becomes clear. This isn't just a confrontation. This is the opening move of a war. Because Karen won't back down. Embarrassment only fuels her. And the man she's chosen to target, he won't back down either. He's dealt with real authority before courts, officers, agencies. He knows the difference between law and theater. And what Karen doesn't realize yet is that by trying to intimidate him, she's awakened something far more dangerous than defiance. She's awakened strategy. By the end of the morning, the cul-de-sac is buzzing. The neighbors whisper. The video is already uploading. And Karen, though she storms back to her house, knows she can't leave it here. She'll escalate. She'll gather allies. She'll twist the rules, bend the truth, and do whatever it takes to crush the man who dared defy her. But she's not the only one preparing, because inside his home, behind closed doors, the man sits at his desk with a calm smile. His phone is full of evidence. His mind is already charting the next step, and deep down, he knows this fight isn't just about grass heights or parked trucks. It's about exposing a bully for who she really is, and showing an entire neighborhood that some battles are worth fighting. And so, the stage is set. One side armed with bluster, the other with patience. One wielding a clipboard, the other wielding truth. And between them lies a neighborhood about to learn what happens when fake authority collides with real resolve. The days that follow are anything but quiet. Karen is rattled, but not defeated. If anything, she grows louder, sharper, more desperate to regain the spotlight she lost in that first confrontation. Her clipboard becomes a permanent accessory, her sunglasses a shield she hides behind as she struts from driveway to driveway, whispering in neighbors' ears. She tells them the man is dangerous, that he's unstable, that he's bringing down the neighborhood. Lies spread faster than truth, and Karen knows it. By sundown, whispers turn into stares, and the man can feel the weight of suspicion every time he steps outside. But he doesn't panic, he doesn't lash out. Instead, he observes, he records. He lets her dig the hole deeper with every false claim, and in the quiet hours of the evening, he begins building his own alliances. Neighbors who've had enough of Karen's tyranny quietly knock on his door. The Johnsons, whose kids were banned from playing basketball in their own driveway, Mr. and Mrs. Alvarez, fined for planting roses that weren't on the approved list. Even old Mr. Whitaker, who was threatened with a lien over the color of his garden shed. They come one by one, sharing their stories, their frustrations, their fears. And together, a picture forms. This isn't about one man. It never was. This is about an entire neighborhood shackled by one woman's obsession with control. Karen, meanwhile, escalates her tactics. She parks her SUV across his driveway, claiming it's community inspection business. She bangs on his door late at night, demanding signatures for fabricated rule updates. And when he refuses to engage, she files bogus complaints with city code enforcement, hoping to bury him under citations. But each time, he stays calm. Each time, he documents. Each time, Sage's niece, quick with technology and sharper than a lawyer in training, uploads another piece of evidence to a growing archive. By the third week, the man isn't just playing defense anymore, he's playing offense. He and his small alliance begin attending HOA meetings, not to argue, not to shout, but to listen, to watch, to document. And what they uncover shocks even them. Karen has been rewriting rules without proper votes. She's been finding families illegally, pocketing fees that never appear in the association's budget reports. She's turned the HOA into her personal kingdom, ruling by intimidation and falsified authority. The neighbors who once muttered behind closed doors now find courage. The Johnsons volunteer to speak out. The Alvarezes offer to bring their contacts in City Hall. Mr. Whitaker, old and frail but full of fire, insists on telling his story in front of everyone. What began as whispers of discontent begins to swell into something louder, stronger. A chorus of voices no longer afraid of Karen's clipboard. Still, Karen doesn't see it coming. To her, every confrontation feels like a victory. Every time she points and yells, she believes she's winning. But she doesn't realize the cameras are rolling. She doesn't realize the evidence is piling up. And she doesn't realize that the more she escalates, the more isolated she becomes. The turning point comes at the next HOA meeting. The man and his allies sit quietly near the back while Karen storms through the agenda, barking about violations and threatening fines. Her words are sharp, but her eyes dart nervously toward the cameras recording every second. And then, at the perfect moment, the man stands. Calm, steady. He begins reading. Not accusations, not insults, facts, dates, times, video stills. Copies of bylaws proving Karen has overstepped again and again. The room shifts. Neighbors lean forward. Whispers ripple through the crowd. Karen tries to shout him down, but for once, her voice doesn't dominate. For once, people don't look at her, they look at him. They look at the truth, and they see clearly that the emperor has no clothes. Karen storms out, slamming the door so hard it rattles the frame, but the damage is done. The man doesn't need to shout or gloat. He's won something far more valuable than a single argument. He's won the neighborhood's attention. For the first time, people see Karen not as an authority, but as a bully. And they see him not as a victim, but as a leader. That night, as he sits on his porch under the soft glow of the street lamp, allies gather around him. The Johnson kids bring lemonade. Mrs. Alvarez offers tamales. Even Whitaker, cane tapping against the concrete, pulls up a chair. They aren't just neighbors anymore. They're a team, a community reclaiming its voice. And in that moment, the man realizes something powerful. Karen thought this was a war she could fight alone. But she's no longer facing one man, she's facing an entire neighborhood united against her. And deep inside, he knows the battle is only halfway over. The showdown is coming, and when it does, Karen will finally learn that power isn't measured in clipboards or threats. It's measured in truth, unity, and the courage of ordinary people who decide they've had enough. The air at the community center that evening is thick with tension. Folding chairs line the walls, every seat filled, neighbors crammed shoulder to shoulder. Some came out of fear, others out of curiosity. But most came because they've had enough of the chaos that has consumed their once quiet neighborhood. At the front of the room stands Karen, chin high, clipboard clutched like a weapon. She barks orders to the board members, rearranges papers, and pretends not to notice the cameras already recording from half a dozen angles. Tonight, she believes, she finally silenced the man who dared to stand against her. But as the meeting begins, it's clear the tide has shifted. No one cheers at her opening remarks. No one nods when she rattles off violations. Instead, eyes drift toward the back, where the man sits quietly, surrounded by his allies. The Johnsons, the Alvarezes, old Mr. Whitaker, they're all here, and they're not hiding anymore. Karen launches into her monologue, waving fabricated citations, claiming she has the power to issue liens, even threatening to have properties seized for unpaid fines. The words echo through the room, but this time they don't inspire fear, they inspire outrage. Murmurs ripple through the crowd. People exchange looks, some shake their heads. For the first time, Karen seems out of step with her own audience. Then, the man stands. Not rushed, not angry, calm, deliberate, steady. He carries a folder thick with documents, and when he reaches the microphone, he doesn't raise his voice. He simply begins to read dates, times, video transcripts, copies of the bylaws showing exactly where Karen overstepped her authority, emails tying her to fines that were never deposited into HOA accounts, footage of her blocking driveways, screaming at children, harassing elderly neighbors. Every word cuts like a scalpel, precise, undeniable. Karen tries to interrupt, but each attempt is met with a louder wave of murmurs, then shouts, "Let him speak. Sit down, Karen." The room has chosen its side. By the time he finishes, the silence is deafening. The evidence sits in plain sight, impossible to ignore. The man closes his folder, looks around at the faces of his neighbors, and says the words that marked the turning point. "This isn't about me. This is about all of us." She has used fear to control this neighborhood, but fear only works if we stay silent. Tonight, we choose whether we keep living under her rules, or take back what's ours. The applause is thunderous. People rise to their feet. Even those who once supported Karen can't deny what they've seen. For the first time, the community realizes it has a voice louder than hers. Karen, red-faced and shaking, lunges for the microphone. "This meeting is adjourned," she shrieks, her voice cracking under the weight of panic. But before she can flee, a hand touches her shoulder. It's not the man's, it's a city official, flanked by 2 officers. The crowd gasps. The official announces that Karen is under investigation for fraud, misuse of funds, and harassment. The citations, the threats, the fines all illegal. She isn't the enforcer anymore. She's the defendant. The officers escort her out as the crowd watches in stunned silence. And then, as the door slams behind her, the silence breaks into cheers. Neighbors hug, some cry. Mr. Whitaker, cane raised like a victory flag, shouts, "Justice." And the room erupts in laughter and applause. But the real victory doesn't come from Karen's downfall, it comes from what happens next. For the first time in years, the HOA meeting continues without her interruptions. Neighbors take turns sharing concerns respectfully. Ideas are discussed openly. A vote is held to dissolve the old board and elect new members. And in a moment of unanimous decision, the man is asked to serve as president not because he wanted power, but because he proved he could be trusted with it. That night, the cul-de-sac is different. Porches glow with light as neighbors gather, children run freely, and laughter fills the air where fear once lived. The man sits quietly, sipping coffee, as Sage uploads the final piece of footage, the showdown, captured in full. Within hours, the video spreads online. HOA Karen, exposed by her own neighborhood. The world watches, cheers, and shares. But for the man, it isn't about fame. It's about peace. In the weeks that follow, the community rebuilds. The Johnson kids shoot hoops without fear. The Alvarezes plant roses that bloom defiantly in the spring. Mr. Whitaker paints his shed bright blue, just because he can. And every time Karen's name comes up, it's spoken not with fear, but with laughter, the memory of a bully who thought she could rule, only to be undone by the truth. And the man, he doesn't see himself as a hero. He sees himself as a neighbor who refused to bow. As someone who understood that real strength isn't about shouting the loudest, it's about standing steady when the storm hits. And though he knows there will always be more battles, more bullies, more Karens in the world, he also knows this: when good people stand together, no clipboard, no false threat, no fake authority can ever take away what's rightfully theirs.